Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Natalie from Chester, Nova Scotia. Welcome to my home. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, I'm Natalie Owens. I'm the founder of Stil James. Welcome to my home. Chester is situated in the South Shore. It's about 45 minutes from Halifax, which is our major city. And it's this really cool sailing village. My kids now walk down and they go sailing each day when we're here. And it's just this really kind of slow but vibey little town that we have sitting on the ocean. Our beaches down in the South Shore are just incredible. I mean, really, they rival any beach, certainly in Canada. And everyone kind of says, you know, it's a bit of a mini Nantucket. There's hydrangea lining the streets. You know, it's a really kind of lush coastal town where nothing feels forced or rushed. In the morning, there's a lot of people just sitting out on their deck, sipping their coffee and kind of taking it in. So my husband and I found this home in Chester about 8 years ago. He and I were down visiting some friends. We were kid-free at that time. We weren't even married. And we just loved the quiet slowness of this village. It's right on the ocean, and I grew up on the water, and I just instantly felt really connected to Chester. And fast forward a few years, my husband actually sold his security business, and he was looking to kind of invest in a second property. Did a lot of walkthroughs in a lot of different homes, and he actually didn't tell me that he was doing that or that he was even considering buying a cottage or a summer home. And he fell in love with this place and brought my mother through. I had no idea. When the home closed, my husband finally decided he had to bring me in, and you know, it was one of those moments where it was like, surprise, this is for us. And I think he was expecting me to be really excited and giddy. And my reaction probably fell a little flat for him. It was very much a quintessential nautical home. There were sailboats all over the walls. You know, the furniture was this big kind of heavy leather furniture all through the house. And I don't know, it didn't feel like us at all, quite frankly. But he really saw the vision, I guess, of being in the village, being steps from the yacht club, steps from the cafe and the theater. It was this forward thinking that he had, like, one day we're gonna have a bunch of kids running around on this property. It can be whatever we want it to be. And he's a good salesperson. He kind of sold me on that, and we went from there. This is our entry space. I actually grew up going to Cape Cod in the summers. That was kind of our spot for family vacation. And I remember the homes there, like the shingled homes, walking in and just feeling like everything was a little bit lighter. The ocean was nearby. That's kind of the feeling that I was going for when we reworked this space. So we did end up redoing the railings and just sanding down the treads on the staircase. And then we added in this flat weave wool rug. I actually found it on Etsy along with the lights here, the brass lights. So I just wanted this to feel like the first touch point where you're coming in and you're like, oh, I have arrived. I'm at the beach. So this is the inspiration for the entryway. Originally, when you walked into the home, where I'm standing was this teeny tiny little closet. It was about 20 inches deep, and everything just kind of got dropped here. It was my only storage space in the house. So when we did the renovation, I took the opportunity to really figure out how to draw around these stairs. Opening this up and blowing that closet out and giving a direct sight line into sort of the backside of the kitchen really allowed us to make the home feel like twice the size, even though we were only adding about 800 square feet. So this archway was added and then followed by sort of a wider arch into the kitchen space, which really allowed us to play with the new flow of the space and how people kind of felt when they're walking into the back side of the house. So this is our kitchen. This used to be our exterior deck. It wasn't really a space I thought that we could turn into anything. And this used to be sort of the exterior wall to the home. So I had this concept that whenever I was going to do a kitchen, I wanted to go up. And this is where the sloped ceiling comes into play. Once we had the drawings of this space and the shared dining space, I felt like everything else was a domino effect from that. So I looked through every green that I could find under the sun. This is hog plum. It is one of my favorite colors. We see it in the fashion world all the time. And I don't know, everybody asked me, they're like, you're really gonna do your cabinetry in this like acid green? And I was like, yeah, I am. I really, really love it. And I sat on it for about 6 months and I still loved it. So we went with the hog plum on the perimeter cabinetry. It works really well with that green ground color that's running through the rest of the home. And then, of course, the unlacquered brass just felt really solid with the hog plum color. It felt like it popped right off of all of the cabinetry. And then I wanted to layer in some natural wood. So the floors were all refinished. They were sanded down back to a natural birch. And then I added in the white oak as sort of my accent play on the island and some of the cabinetry. The quartzite was chosen as a statement stone in some respects, but it's also very much in line with Chester, with the ocean and how it looks on certain days. So it was kind of a no-brainer for me. I wanted to run it up off of our Aga stove, which is in the navy. And then I just went softer on the range hood. So I didn't want anything to jump out at you for the range hood. I kept it simply white in line with the walls. And I just allowed this to kind of draw you in. It's really beautiful in the evening. You can kind of see the green undertones of it. So the shiplap on the ceiling, that was something that we knew we wanted to incorporate. Tried to figure out where the stop and start was. Some of the walls have shiplap. And then of course the entire ceiling. I wanted to ensure that the space didn't feel new. It wasn't just a bunch of white drywall. And we were required to have one beam actually, structurally. So I added in the 2 other beams and did a wood cladding on them with sort of a medium brown stain. I think people get tripped up on having too many different types of wood species. You kind of can't go wrong as long as it's designed well. You can have as many wood species in a space as you want. And then the lighting, I really wanted to mix this old world feel with sort of this new, fun, playful lighting. So I used Hudson Valley, Visual Comfort, and Curry & Co., sort of the big 3 in our world here in Halifax. And I wanted to make sure that these guys over the island felt really airy. I wanted them to be oversized because we're up about 12 feet in the ceilings here. So these felt really fitting for the space. They're kind of an unusual blue color. I don't have that blue anywhere else, but they just seem to work here. And then Visual Comfort, you know, with its brass finish, this is just something that feels timeless. We've got this around the rest of the home and it just feels like it's always kind of lived here. So I'll talk a little bit about the kitchen layout because this was something that was revised many, many times. But normally what we want to do is we always want to be looking out to our favorite viewpoint. So the sink, you know, was set to be on this back wall looking into the backyard. This is where the kids play, they run around. It's kind of secluded back there, so it's a really beautiful viewpoint. And this squarish island was really set to be the anchor of the space where we could host, we could kind of have people over on one side, while we were cooking all over in this space here. So everything that we sort of decided in terms of layout felt like it was decision based on what happens when there's 15 people in this space. How are we going to move in the space? We had one iteration where the fridge was over on the right side and our arch was in the center. And just pulling everything sort of over to this right side and keeping things condensed in this area. And then coming in and out of this little hidden pantry. So it's a really kind of narrow space, but again, it's super functional. We get to hide anything that's messy back there and just showcase kind of our dishware that we use anytime we've got a crowd coming over for dinner. So my heart has always been with these lemons from Cole & Son. This wallpaper, when we first bought the house, this is the first wallpaper that I put up in the old pantry. And I loved it so much that I used it again. And it's also a bit of a nod to what was old. And now this space is sort of armed with all of our dishware. It's got everything functional that maybe we don't want out in the main space. And then it's housing all of the food back here in this tall pantry. So, we're able to keep a kitchen space really open with limited uppers when you've got a space like this tucked away that's just loaded up with drawers and cabinets. So we're now going to move into the dining space. This sparked a lot of debate between my husband and I because he's sort of a little more traditional. He's thinking we need like a formal dining space, which is what we had previously before we did this renovation. But really, once we worked through our lifestyle and our actual needs, this kind of built-in bench felt really right for the space. I typically, anytime I have a more narrow space to work with, I try to shift everything to one side. And I really wanted this to feel like you were in a sunroom space while you were having your meals. So it's a bit multi-purpose. We've got tons of kids here in the morning having pancakes on a Saturday. But then when I want to dress it up and kind of make it feel a little more sophisticated and elevated for just our friends or our family, then I'm able to do that in this space. The wood windows, these are a nod to sort of the rest of the space in the home. So I wanted to keep that character of what was here. And then adding the little finger pulls in the unlacquered brass just kind of made it feel like these may have always existed in the space. And adding our beaded chandelier, this was my favorite splurge item. I love lighting, and I knew that you were going to be able to see this piece from many, many angles coming in and out of the house. So I really ran with that kind of California casual vibe. This is from Made Goods, and it just adds a lot to that like whimsy feeling of being in the dining space. Another kind of key component, we work with a lot of families with young kids, and this fabric on the dining bench needed to be really resistant to sticky fingers, anybody dropping food. It's got to be durable fabric. It has to be sunbrella because of how much sun we actually get in the space. So our hot pink and orange fabric from Kravit was an easy decision for me. I knew I wanted this space to lean a little more feminine than the rest of the house. So we paired that with Faro and Ball's setting plaster in the built-in bar area. And this space really just allows us to get the table set without having to go into the pantry or the kitchen area. We have everything we need here. We've got our hidden mini fridge. And I really kind of ran with this Anthropologie vibe. So I've got all my dishware from Anthropologie, and anytime we're hosting people, it's really fun to just layer up our table, and it feels like a really fun, easy space to lounge in. Anytime we're designing around a space that needs to be sort of durable, we look to use these jute rugs. This is from Laloy. It's got the cream running underneath it. But honestly, you can't kill these. I have them all through the house, under beds. I think it's a really nice kind of layered touch that makes the space feel polished. while also being really durable for when people are eating. The other piece that I really wanted to be thoughtful about in the design here is our dining table and then the ends of our bench. These were meant to be really sculptural, really playful, almost a little mid-century feeling. When I designed the table, the request was simple. We needed to seat 10 to 14 people. So we went a little extra wide on the table. It can actually fit 2 chairs, 2 small scale chairs at the end, and then load the bench up with children. And Brett at Redbeard really helped me kind of bring this gathering place to life. As soon as it landed, I was just in awe of his work. And he really thinks about what the vision is around functionality for a space, which is really helpful for people who are looking to live in these places. So when I was designing this space, Kit Kemp came out with a fabric collection that really spoke to me. And I felt, as soon as I saw it, I thought, if I ever redo my cottage, I'm definitely gonna layer in some of her fabrics. So this is the dinner party fabric in brown. You know, they're all really fun prints. I've got it kind of loaded up on the bench as well. They're just kind of durable, really beautiful, colorful fabrics that are timeless. You can use them in a lot of different spaces. And then, you know, that little touch of coastal, I've got some local artwork here above, and the combination of the fabric and some of the artwork choices, it still feels like Chester, but it's also, we don't want to take it too seriously. So this is a place where kids are coming in with sandy feet and they're cuddling up on all of the furniture, all of the throw pillows. So it does have to feel like a family lives here. And that was sort of the vibe that we were going for when we pulled the fabric selection together. So the overall style of the home now is very much this sort of Nova Scotia meets California vibe. I walk into a lot of homes in the South Shore that are very nautical. They're very literal, so it's like only blue and white and there's anchors everywhere. And that just didn't really feel like us. We're both kind of, we've got an eclectic aesthetic. We pick up artwork when we travel. One of my favorite pieces here in the house is a really large wave, but it's actually a California wave, which is, I feel like I'm kind of betraying my maritime roots by having a California wave in my house, but that really set the tone for the rest of the house. It's got a lot of greens in it. There's some blue undertones, and there's this like whimsical vibe happening. So we kind of leaned into that and ran with more greens and pinks instead of just the traditional sort of blue and white coastal aesthetic. Okay, so welcome to the living room. This space was originally full sort of dark wood panels all throughout. This was the first space that I had to brighten up. It kind of had that old Chester feel. There was a huge sailboat kind of running down the wall. So it was definitely a space that I felt had really good bones, but I didn't know how to make it feel like us. So the first thing that I did is we painted out everything in simply white. And then for our furnishings, I wanted to bring in a lot of color. The Annie Selke rug, this patchwork rug, was a piece that I saw actually at High Point, and I just felt that it was absolutely the right starting point for this particular space. And from there, I just kind of layered in some other fabrics that felt a little more coastal, a little more nautical, overstuffed couch. So the fireplace originally was this old sort of heavy stone running all over with some dark library shelving cabinets. They just felt really heavy in the space. And again, back to that functional seating portion, I wanted to run little bench seats off of the fireplace so that when everyone is in here, we have these extra little nooks that people can sit comfortably in. And then this is that California wave. You can kind of see it's got that green running through it. I fell in love with this in Laguna Beach when we were there And my husband actually surprised me with it for our anniversary, and I just knew it had to live in this space. And it really kind of dictated that feeling that you get when you come in. And then we've got our wood log wall. This was my husband's one contribution to this entire space. So I thought I would mention it because he'll feel really good about that. But he always wanted a firewood wall, and this was something that was really easy to do. It wasn't expensive to do, and we blocked up sort of the other side of this. It was an open passageway, and it just worked really well. And then these doors were the existing doors. So again, you're seeing that green ground color by Farrow and Ball make an appearance. These were originally screens, and my contractor pulled in glass. There was a lot of debate. Do we just open it up? Do we take the doors off completely? But with 3 kids, I'm really happy that I kept them so that we can kind of close this off to be really two quieter spaces when we're all having dinner in the dining room. This is the original hardware that was on the house. I wanted to make sure to run this brass kind of throughout because it is a bit of a star of the show when you're going into an old home and you see all of these kind of old metals that were always there. We brushed up a lot of them actually in the house and just kept the existing hardware. The front of the living room, this space kind of looks out into the front of the house where we've got our gardens, and these overstuffed chairs, these were original cravat chairs actually, and I found them in a house. My girlfriend was moving in and she was gonna pitch them. They were a little bit dead and the fabric was sort of done in, and she let me scoop them, and I recovered them in a Krypton fabric, just a soft nautical blue and cream stripe, and then we had them restuffed, and they kind of still give that old world vibe with the casters. And this is a place where, where my husband and I, at the end of the day, when everybody's up sleeping, we just kind of sit and have a glass of wine and catch up. Okay, so this is the mudroom space, and it actually originally was our dining room, which is really typical for these older homes. The dining room is normally set at the front of the house, a little more formal feeling, but this space needed to be our workhorse. And the kids come in, they drop their life vests down. This is where everything is kind of stored for the grab and go of what we're doing in the summer. Got all of our beach towels here. I wanted this space to be easy on the eyes because I love color and I like going deep with color. But I felt like the front of the home and kind of that first touch point needed to be really soft and warm and welcoming and a little more nautical maybe than the rest of the house. So the V-groove paneling, both on the backdrop here and on the cabinetry, was just a nice little touch. Instead of a traditional shaker, I wanted to do something a little more beachy feeling. Along with the rattan wrapped light fixture and this interior window, which is my favorite little trick to do when you want to still be able to see in, but you're actually kind of hiding some things down below. An interior window is just a really great way to separate a space while still having it feel really open and thoughtfully designed. So this is our little powder room. Originally, I knew that I wanted this to be sort of the most colorful space that we were going to design. This Schumacher floral wallpaper, I've been looking at it for years. It was just destined to be in here. And then the common thread that you're going to see sort of throughout the home as you move is this green color from Farrow and Ball. So this is green ground. We incorporated it in the wainscoting, the trim around the door, and then some shelving, and of course the custom vanity. And then for the stone here, this is always a nice opportunity to use marble if you're scared to use marble in a kitchen. I always like to use it in a powder room or in a mudroom space. So this space really feels like me actually. It's kind of fun and it's really colorful, a little bit quirky. I kind of want people to feel like they're really enjoying being in the bathroom. That's a goal for me as a designer. So it's certainly not a space that we forget about. And now we're going to move on into the laundry room. Now we're in the laundry room. This was a last minute ad. The laundry was originally in the basement, and I was hoping I would have a little square that I could play with. Again, I ran that green ground Pharaoh and Ball color into the cabinetry, also with the V-groove. And I also wanted to incorporate a little bit of soapstone. So this I thought was a really good place to use that kind of dark contrast in a room that's pretty bright. And then my other Schumacher wallpaper, again, this is one of my favorites. I feel like Schumacher and floral, they can do no wrong. So this was just kind of a light, fun, functional space for dropping in all those beach towels at the end of the day. This is a piece by Eileen Murray. She's a Canadian artist, and what I love about her pieces is that she incorporates every color under the sun that you can think of in this really whimsical but also sophisticated way. I loved that there was this hot pink bra kind of just draped over the ottoman here, and looking out into their backyard. I mean, it's got all of the colors that I actually designed my house with. So when I saw it in her gallery, I fell in love. And this wall was something that needed impact. It needed something bright and bold and beautiful. And as you're walking in the home, I felt really good about this being the first thing that you see. I did a business degree in university, and I came out and quickly fell in love with sales. So I was working with a lot of different startup companies, and I really just loved to sell. I loved to kind of bring something new into a space that was otherwise crowded. And I did that for about 8 years. And it wasn't until I got pregnant with my first daughter that I was diagnosed with hyperemesis. I got really sick. I was just one of those unlucky pregnant ladies that could barely function throughout sort of the 9 months. And it was at that time that my husband kind of said to me, like, look, this on a plane and, traveling everywhere, this is not really working for you anymore. If you could take a beat and think about what you really want to do, why don't we just do that and use this as an opportunity to kind of look at what the next chapter is. And that was just a critical point, when my daughter was born. Design was something I could do at my kitchen table, and I already had this kind of ability to hunt and an eagerness to get in front of people and to get to people that others couldn't. And so I would knock on doors and ask people if I could choose a paint color for their front door, and that's how I started it. After sort of working by myself for a couple of years, I started to pull in some women who were really talented in the design space. They didn't have any formal training, but they had been doing it on the side, much like myself. And I started to scale Stil James by adding to the team. So first came a couple of new designers that could really help me with the workload. And then I met Victoria, who was one province over in New Brunswick, and she was actually working in her family business, which is logistics and shipping, but moonlighting as a designer on the side. And during COVID, she wasn't able to design her own home. She was going to move to Halifax, and she really needed boots on the ground. So she called me and said, I don't really need your help. I don't really need your eye, but I need you to kind of project manage and be on the ground when I can't get there. And through that relationship, we really kind of developed a strong friendship, and I felt like she was sort of the yin to my yang that I had been missing. I loved the sales part of design. I loved the creative side of design. But Victoria had this process brain that I just didn't have. And I knew if I was going to sort of take it to the next level, I would require that. So when she eventually moved to Halifax, I sat her down and I said, listen, that was great, but now I'm looking to have a different type of relationship. And she said, well, what do you mean? I said, you're either going to be my competitor or you're going to be my partner. And at the time, she was on her second baby, and I was on my third baby. And I said, you know, we've got 5 young kids between the 2 of us, and we're both really tired and we're both trying to do something interesting in the market that hasn't been done before. So I think between the 2 of us, we can really scale this thing. And that's when we kind of moved forward with our partnership. And she came down to Chester that summer as we were working away, and she fell in love. You know, it's like one of those things that as soon as you come here and you feel just the peacefulness of the whole setting, you know, you kind of fall in love with it. And she quickly got on the hunt for her own space to have here. And now it works out really well because we can both be here in the summer, and we've got an office here that we work out of, and then back to the city when the fall hits. So we're very lucky. My go-to design tip is always to be unafraid. Like we work in a traditional kind of conservative market. A lot of our clients are very hesitant to go outside of this neutral sort of white on white type aesthetic. And, you know, anytime you're kind of playful with design, and you kind of lean into things that you really love, but you take it to that next step, I think that's when the outcome can be really special. You know, all that to say, you need to kind of know your limits. And if you feel like you're maybe not the right person to be choosing a bunch of paint colors, bring in a professional. It doesn't have to be a full service design package, but there's certainly people out there like myself when I started out that are happy to come in and just find these interesting, bold pieces that are really personal to who the homeowner is. Now I'm gonna take you upstairs to the kids' bathroom. This space was one that I kind of tucked in without really telling anybody that I was gonna do. There used to be sort of a swing door in here. It was very, very cramped. Anytime someone was sitting on the toilet, if someone opened the door, their knees would get whacked. So I wanted to just gut the space. This archway here was actually original. We had to open it up slightly, and I added this Belize blue zillage tile. The zillage tile, we see it all the time, but you kind of can't go wrong. It just always looks good. It's got that European feel to it where it's chippy and uneven. It's a bit of a nightmare for your installer to actually put it in, but I'm really glad that I did it. And I wanted to run the polished nickel finish in this space as well. Kohler actually helped me kind of pull together the plumbing package for the entire renovation. And I just love the emphasis on all of these bold metals in spaces that we've got a lot of color happening in, because I find they really are the standout in the space. Running the custom shower curtain off the ceiling, this is a must-have when you've got an arch shower, because it's really difficult to put a rod in any type of arch. So this was something that we had to do sort of on the back end. And it just gives the bathroom a little more scale, a little more height. So while the footprint of this didn't change, it feels like it's twice the size of its original footprint. The inspiration around the vanity, we're seeing these kind of playful sculptural toe kicks, and I wanted to do, where it's a kid's bathroom, I wanted to do something fun on the toe kick and the vanity. So I did a little scalloped toe kick detail here on the white oak. And then again, just a softer marble. I didn't need to do anything too crazy here. I wanted it to kind of melt into the rest of the space. And then Jordan Conley, it has this amazing wallpaper collection. It really speaks to like being at the beach. And the surfer guys were just a must-have up here. She's also got girls like beach bums on the beach, but I just really love the surfer guys here. And my son obviously loved that I have the little boy standing holding the surfboard. And then our lighting, again, from visual comfort, I wanted to ensure that there was this kind of textured ribbed glass happening in here so that it didn't feel like it was too modern of a space, that it still has this bit of nautical kind of old world feel to it. So this space was actually, when we bought the home, this little bunk room was a space that I loved as is. So I really didn't have to touch it. Over the years, we sort of added some lightness to it through furniture and soft furnishings. But the maps, these are real maps from all over the world. They're sailors' maps, and I absolutely loved them. This was the perfect space. It was originally the nursery as the kids were kind of coming into the fold. And now it's like a bunkie room. So we've got a couple of bunk beds here that were original to the house, and then the cream iron bed. So we can sleep comfortably 4 children in this room. And it's just a really nice space for when our kids come down here. They're always really excited to get their clothes away, and they have their specific drawers that are all tucked in different nooks and crannies. Home has always just been this like comfortable gathering place for me. I grew up with my grandparents across the street, so I was really lucky to have 2 very comfortable homes, and we would always go on our March break to Florida to their kind of bungalow in this neat little trailer park in Florida. And it was really my grandparents that set the tone for, you know, every dinner, every meal, whether we're on vacation or it's just run of the year, like we're together, we're sitting, we're chatting, we're lingering at the table. And they just kind of made every space like you craved to get back there. And I always had that, and that kind of filtered down into my parents and the home that they created for us. And I remember thinking like, this is just something that I have to do. I need to create the space that is the gathering place. And, you know, my husband will always say like, if anything, the kids are gonna come home for my cooking. So every single holiday that we have, you know, he makes sure to put on a big spread. And in the summer, it's seafood all summer. And, you know, he's still very much the one bringing everybody in. So I never know how many people are gonna be here for dinner, but it feels really good to be able to host and to bring people together. That's really what home is for me.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.